Hello and salutations, gentlefolk. Yes, hi. I'm not dead. Shocking, I know. Congrats. You guys all made it through 2020, which is pretty impressive. Now, I think we can all agree that 2020 was, how do I put this? A raging and ongoing dumpster fire? And I think that's part of the reason why I haven't really uploaded. I had several videos ready to go, including the footage that you're seeing right now. They were all edited and recorded, but I don't really think that's the kind of content we needed in 2020. It was a lot of drama and call-out content, and sure, I would have raked in some serious views and gotten some cash, which would have been very helpful, because I'm a college student. But, drama is kind of the last thing I think we needed then. So if you came here expecting that and some roasting of Alex, aka Yandere I'm not really doing that. I've got a few videos linked below on the topic of Yandere Simulator that actually analyze and critique his work, if you'd like to check out a video that's a little bit more than, hey, this guy's a creep, or hey, he should just use switch statements instead of if-else. So for this project, that you guys voted on, by the way, follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you'd like to submit ideas for future videos. I try to treat it a bit more as if Alex was a client asking for a redesign of his character as opposed to, you know, being a YouTuber just looking for hashtag content. Now my main issue would be that Yandere has already gone full steam ahead with the Unity model, meaning I, as a character designer, do not have a whole lot of room to work with, as the redesign would have to be close enough to what he used for advertisement that the public could recognize it and not feel lied to, but it had to be distinct enough to not get lost among all the other anime girls and Yandere Sim clones out there. So my concept is based more on the playstyle as opposed to just full character customization. Currently, I believe anyway, Yandere Sim allows the player to fully customize both Ayano, the main character, and Senpai. Kinda, sorta, anyway. My idea would involve removing the ability to customize Ayano, instead having the model change based on how the player defeats rivals. I wanted to try and keep this different from other redesign ideas I've seen, and I think this could be a good compromise. This way, the original design of Ayano could still be used for advertising, but she isn't so... how do I put this? Plain? This would eliminate some of the dead weight on the project as well, allowing modelers to focus attention where it's needed. Many players have asked for a first-person perspective, or at least one that's not, you know, the model right in the middle of the screen, so the character model isn't really the focus for a whole lot of players. Taking out much of the Easter egg hairstyles would also lend itself to Yandere Sim being more of a serious project, like Alex wants. Currently, Ayano can also switch personas, as far as I know anyway. This could be implemented as a similar trait, essentially that Ayano is a blank canvas, changing her personality and appearance at will as a means to an end. This would also work as a visual indicator of what path the player is currently on. Alex has mentioned that he wants multiple endings for the game, and as a gamer myself, there is nothing more annoying than working for hours and hours for one specific ending and then you get one that you didn't want. Since Ayano's main feature is, a hairstyle, I wanted to keep the ponytail intact but just do different variants for the different playstyles. I'll go a little bit more into detail later here, but so far I have Innocent, where the player focuses more on befriending and would have a high reputation. The scheme style, where the player obviously would focus on gossip and blackmail and all that jazz. And then of course the delinquent style, where the player is essentially a delinquent. I know, big shock, huh? Now I'm not a video game designer, so these may not be perfectly balanced. So if you guys have any ideas or critiques, you can leave them below, and hey, maybe we can do a round 2 and I can milk this for even more views. I do go back and add another style later, but that's one I came up with near the end of this while looking over other characters that were currently in the game. The Innocent style does end up looking a bit too close to the bullies and Osana, but hey, if you guys want, I could redesign those characters as well, I don't care. I don't really feel like they fit that well in the game anyway, so... Now I'm gonna switch focus a little bit on the uniform here. Yandere Sim has the most basic Japanese schoolgirl uniform ever. Literally the same basic design that everyone everywhere uses. There's a couple of other options available in the game, but some of these are just Unity assets that are really basic, or just just a little weird. Don't get me wrong, I know Yandere Dev is a fan of women's anatomy, but regardless of this statement, these are high school students. It's impossible for all of them to be in different years in school and all be 18. And I don't really feel comfortable with giving them a boob uniform. I thought about giving her a longer traditional skirt like actual schoolgirls wear, but with all the mobility in the game, and again, the need to cater to the traditional weeaboo audience, I went ahead and dropped it. Since Ayano has to be a little plain for the advertisement, I figure more work can go into the uniform. Now, as a fellow weeaboo, I understand the obsession with schoolgirl uniforms, but designing one singular and recognizable uniform would again eliminate dead weight, provide a more focused and serious project, and would be better off for cosplayers, the wider fan base, and just general marketing. I mean, look at most of Hot Topic. Even slapping a simplified image of the uniform on a hoodie or t-shirt would be recognizable and would generate more income to the project. So here, I'm trying to refine some of the ideas that I had. I was trying my darndest to keep her looking different from another popular yandere game, that being Lovesick or Love Letter and their Bo-chan character. I'm sorry, I don't know if she ever got a name. I know the next model did, but I don't think this one was ever named. I was trying to follow more of a cute Harajuku and Decora style. I know she needs way more accessories for Decora, but I didn't want it to be too crazy since you're only really gonna see her from one angle for most of the game. Unless you do first person, then you're not gonna see her at all. For the skiing character, I figure she might be in the occult club since you can get away with being a little more sus there. And I think that club would really work well for this playstyle, since you could work more in the shadows, people wouldn't notice you as much, and you could do some really weird stuff on school grounds. I mean, come on. If you came here not expecting me to draw a cute goth girl, then boy, you don't know me at all and I don't know how you got on this channel. For the Delinquent Style, I tried to keep it really punk and shonen, you know, action anime-like. I think she came out a little too stylized for this project, since I was kind of trying to work more with the game's current style, I guess, and aesthetic. But I do end up loving the end design. I mean, I have a thing for weird anime hair, if you don't know. I have a problem, please send help. So now I'm going back and working on the base model for the game. I actually really do like the updated model for Ayano. I don't know if they're ever going to use her, but man, she could look really amazing with the right lighting. Now, since the Psycho Corporation made this academy for their children, I tried to design something I think Megami would enjoy, since this academy caters more to her during the duration of the story. I wanted to keep some traditional Japanese uniform aspects since I know that's what Yandere Dev and, again, the general weeaboo audience enjoys, but I also wanted to throw in a little bit more militaristic details to, again, kind of match Megami's personality a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm throwing a lot of details at you. I'm assuming if you're here, then you'd know at least a general amount about Yandere-sim, maybe? I tried to keep the same general shape and style of the sailor uniform, but with a little bit more rich and posh academy details like the bow and buttons and the cuffs. I thought it might be kind of interesting if the front had a little bit more of a Western style collar, you know, the button up and the kind of classic button up collar that we have, but the back has more of the classic sailor collar. I do wish I made that a little more pronounced in the design, but I still like it. I was thinking maybe the collar could be shaped like the petals on the Academy logo, but I don't know if that would work with the game's current style since nothing is really that stylized or sharp, so I went ahead and toned it down for the final product. I wanted to make it something simple that artists and cosplayers could recreate and have it be recognizable enough to where people see it and go, oh, that's Yandere Simulator, instead of, oh, that's yet another Japanese high school student. Okay, I'm bored. Of course, looking at it, it kind of reminds me of the uniform I made for my webcomic. This wasn't meant to be a plug, but you can read that if you want. That's on Tapastic and Webtoons. It's called Project Evolution, and I used the same kind of influences, the Western military style. You can read that if you want. I won't mind. I swear I wasn't intending to plug here. It just kind of happened. I'm sorry. Now you'll see I quickly sketch up another style for Ayano, the more studious design. I'll explain that one later on, but I think the name kinda speaks for itself. I don't know if you can guess what it is, but I do kinda have to go back and tweak the scheme design a little bit just to kinda differentiate. The expressions were a little bit too similar. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around like a whole lot in this video, I was getting a lot of different ideas. I was studying a lot of different aspects of the game and watching different videos and analyses of the game. I can English, I swear. I know how to English. Even now, I have like a couple other ideas that I think would be really interesting to work with. If you guys come up with any ideas too, I'd love to see them. We could make it like a little community challenge. Send me your guys' Ayanos. Now this is about the time the time-lapse feature came out for Clip Studio, the program that I use. So I went ahead and tried it here just to kind of see what you guys think and kind of dip my toes in the water. I do like it for sketches, but I don't know if I really like it for recording line art and coloring. Me personally, I always like to be really up close and personal whenever an artist does any kind of line art or coloring or shading. I always feel like that's where their little style details come in, you know? I'll give it this though, it is kind of aesthetically pleasing just to kind of slowly watch this little time lapse. I mean, I'll give it that. Now if only I was professional enough to make this actually work for me. So since the heads of the models are a little small, I went back and did these in my normal way of recording. Well, normal for this tablet. I'm still trying to get used to recording on this tablet. One day I'll get myself a keyboard, and then you guys can get a really nice, smooth speed paint. But for now, you get to deal with this. Throughout this, I tried to match the style Yandere-cHAN has, instead of it just being my, usual style, even though it still kind of is. Which is why some things are a little bit safer than the way I normally design characters. I can make this thing super weird if I wanted to. Who knows, maybe we can make that a video. What would Yandere-cHAN be like if I was in charge? Man, I hate working on projects like this, because I always get like a million more ideas, and then I just get obsessed with it, and then that's all I want to do. This is just gonna dominate my brain for months now, thanks guys! I wanted to show that this concept could work with the current version of the game. Things could change later on, because the game is, still in development. But I wanted this to be a good balance between what Alex wants for the game and some of the critiques that people currently have of the game. So I had the official art of Ayano off to the side so I can try and reference that while I was working. Originally I was going to follow the official style a lot closer, but I can't. Don't get me wrong, the art looks great, but I love these little details like in the hair and the eyes. I feel like that's kind of my happy place, and I'm not a big fan of the general smooth airbrushing effect that a lot of anime things kind of seem to have. Again, art looks great. Artist did great. I'm not bashing the artist, it's just the taste of personal preference. I restrained myself for most of this project, just let me have this, okay? I also wanted to make sure that these high schoolers, looked like high schoolers? Ayano in the game is more slim, and the updated model is more slim than that, but the official art is a little more thick. Not thick with like 4 C's, maybe thick with like 2 C's, just like a little bit. I felt like some things were a little bit too defined for a game about high schoolers, so I kind of tried to tone that back a little bit. I wanted to match the actual colors of the school, the creams and pinks and golds. Alex seems to be wanting to go for a more girly and warm aesthetic, so I kind of wanted to reflect that in the uniform. Originally, I was going to go for more of that soft blue that was in one of the designed uniforms, but I just felt that the warmer tones might work a little bit better. The blue is kind of a bit overused for school uniforms, and generally the entire design of the game is a lot more warm and pink, so I'm just going to go with that. So I'm just laying down all the basic shading here just to give things a little bit of form and not make them, super flat. I do like the blush on the original artwork, but I'm just really obsessed with this textured blush I've been doing lately. I don't know how it happened, but this is my thing now, and this is what I live for. I also amped up the blush like a lot. I mean, it's a game about a teenage girl who's obsessively crushing on someone. I mean, you can't not do the blushies. That's like an anime sin, okay? Now here, I'm working on the Innocent Playstyle. My general idea for this is that the player keeps a high reputation and would befriend a lot of the NPCs. The player usually eliminates rivals using tactics like matchmaking or befriending. They have high stats in areas like language and maybe psychology, as well as the, seduction stat. I also did a bit of research into color meanings in Japan, but maybe don't get too surprised, none of them are really that groundbreaking in terms of Western perception. So because I wanted all the playstyles to be a little different from each other, I tried to use one main color for each, just to differentiate between them. Now I went ahead and used pink as the main color here. In Japan, it's the color of youth, good health, and femininity. I know, there's really no shock there, no one is surprised. I felt it would just kind of make sense to go with apparently one of the most popular colors in Japan. I don't know how true that is, that's just what a couple of sources said. I used the default pink found throughout much of the game, but this makes Ayano look a little bit too close to Osana and Raibaru. I love that name, Raibaru, it's great. So I do go back and I change the color later to a lot more of a softer pink, just I think it pops a little bit more with her hair, it makes it stand out a little bit, kinda, sorta, maybe. I also went ahead and added some blue to her face just to add a little bit of contrast and a little bit more variety in the color. I didn't want it to be too close to the bully, so I didn't do a whole lot. You'll see also I'm playing around with patterns. I tried looking up Harajuku and Decora patterns, something simple that wouldn't be too distracting for the player, and the polka dot style was the most common, so again, she's twinning with Osana? Maybe they would just be best of friends on this route. I mean, she and Raibaru match, so I guess that could work. Now it's just the three amigos. Now, I don't know if anyone will really notice this, but I tried to hide a lot of heart shapes in this particular design, just the way her hair curls and the way her mega poofy ponytail are shaped. Just trying to make her look as cute and innocent as possible. I did also add these little white freckles to her face too. I wanted to again bring in some of those fashion styles, and Harajuku calls for a lot of blush, but generally the makeup for that is pretty simple, while Decora is super detailed. But since the player rarely sees Ayano's face during gameplay, I figured it'd probably be a waste of time to do some overly detailed makeup. And then we have the scheme style. Kinda touched on this earlier, a lot of gossip and blackmail, maybe a little bit of violence, not gonna lie, but basically your character is just always sus. In Japan, purple is more the color of royalty, as well as denoting wisdom, arrogance, and cruelty, which perfectly fit this particular playstyle. Here I figure Ayano would want to look a little more dreary and dark to kind of make people more wary of her, maybe even a little scared, I don't know. So I went ahead and de-poofed her hair and made things a lot more sharp. I tried to make her look as goth as possible, so I did some darker lips and eyeshadow as well as the permanent dark shadow on her face. Now the Delinquent Style was a lot of fun. I thought about giving her maybe some scars or some face wounds, really rough her up, but all the other delinquents already have that, and it seems a little bit too permanent for the adaptive model. So the main color I used here was red, meaning strong emotions, aggression, and strength. Again, I know you're totally surprised. I had gone back and forth between doing the blonde or keeping it natural for this look, but I decided, you know what, just go for it. You have to dye your hair in order to join the delinquents anyway, which is one of the requirements I had for this playstyle, so do it. And blonde hair does still kind of hold a little bit of a stigma in Japanese culture. Those with blonde hair usually attract more attention, which is exactly what Ayano would want here. This playstyle isn't for the subtle, so I figure why be subtle with the design anyway. Now, it isn't as drastic as Alex seems to think, like it isn't all bad people dye their hair blonde and it's just all delinquents and you better watch out for them. But it is something that generally does make people take notice of you. And I did do a little bit of a darker makeup look here just to be a little more tough and intimidating. Lastly, we have the studious style. I always feel like I'm not saying that right. Am I saying that right? Something that just really bugs me about the science club in Yandere Simulator is none of the girls have their hair tied back. Who's ever been allowed to do labs without your hair in a ponytail or in a bun or braided, or you can't have your hair down when you're working with Bunsen burners and acid, okay? But I didn't want it to be too tidy since I figure here Ayano really doesn't give a flippin' fudge about what she looks like. She's way too busy studying. So this playstyle, the player would have higher stats in things like biology and chemistry. They studied a lot to know how to kill with no real bloodshed. I also used blue here since blue is a common color for students, especially after school when they're job hunting, and it stands for passivity, which I figure would work really well because here Ayano really doesn't care about anybody. I did think about changing Ayano's base color a bit too, since usually when I work with black in commissions or something, I usually add in purple or blue to give it a little bit more dimension. But in Japan, the color black means an evil-hearted person and a non-being, which ends up describing Ayano pretty freaking well. I mean, right when the game starts, she states, "I feel no emotion," and then as soon as she learns about her rival, she wants to go into a murderous rage, so that's one way to solve your problems, I guess, but not really. And this non-being idea would end up working kinda well for this concept, since this is before the player really starts making decisions. Again, Ayano is meant to be a blank canvas here. I wanted to make sure all the shading for the characters was kept more on the warm side, so you'll notice I stick more towards pinks and yellows for the general shading and highlighting. I figure so long as school atmosphere is up, everything will be all cute and warm and pink anyway. So of course, if the player lowers school atmosphere, things get all dark and dreary and gray, but for design purposes, I'm sticking with pink, which is probably the only time you will ever hear me say I'm sticking with pink. This never happens, and I'm scared. I think this color will be forever seared into my retinas. Alex, why? I do mess around a bit with the uniform, just adding in some plaid and giving it a little bit more of a rich academy kind of vibe. I'm not 100% happy with the pattern, but I kinda suck at making patterns, so we're just gonna pretend that this is exactly what I wanted and totally not a pattern made by Pixel Penguin on the Clip Asset store. I also added in the crest of Academy and the Psycho logo on the back, again, just to add those little details to kind of tie the world a little bit together. So here we have it. The redesign, so far, of Ayano, the main character of Yandere Simulator. You may notice I do add in a little bit more to each design just to kind of personalize them a little bit, make them feel a little bit more lived in as opposed to just head slapped on a random body. I do things like change the stockings, which is a staple in character design in Yandere Simulator, right next to the hair and the boob size. I do little things like give the scheme personality a sweater or the studious design glasses. I hope you guys like this little return to YouTube, and if you guys have any ideas for future challenges for me, please leave them below, or you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget, if you guys make any Ayano personalities or any fan art of these, I freaking go rabid whenever I see them. You guys are like so freaking talented, and honestly it just makes my day seeing what you guys make and what you guys send me. Anyway, thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys soon. Maybe. Possibly. Bye!